Hi, everyone. It's Shelley. Welcome back to, this is number 4. Welcome to the 4th episode of SNOWED, the Michael Snow is a Fraud story. I looked over my notes here quickly, and I realized what I did forget to tell you. I want to put these things in because they are important. So some of the other things that Mike told me, and like I said to you, he slowly sort of dropped hints that he had money. Things like I would say, "Oh, I'd like to do that, blah 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 blah," but I don't really have the money for that. And he'd say, "But I do. I can help you." No, thank you. It's fine. But just little things like that, where he would point out and say, I own, this is my land, and this is what I've already done, and this is what I plan to do with this, and blah 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 blah. Something else he told me to, again, make me believe his story is that him and his wife were still incredibly good friends. And I thought, well, wow. I mean, somebody who has stuck by you through all of this, your charge, going to prison, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you've got to be an okay guy, right? His parents, I met his parents. They seemed very supportive of him. So again, his friend Karen, these people in his life, I was meeting people in his life and they seemed to back up his stories. What else did I want to tell you? Oh, another thing he told me was that his dad, so how his parents ended up living on that land in Newfoundland, how they ended up in Newfoundland was that his grandpa, who was a Marine, came up to Newfoundland to do something, because Gander, right? Like that's there's an air base, blah, blah, blah. So his grandpa came up, loved Newfoundland so much, bought some property and never really did anything with it. His dad came up as a Marine when he was going to fight in Vietnam, and that's how he met Michael's mom. She was living in Newfoundland. I think she's from Newfoundland. I'm not entirely sure. But anyways, so that is true. Mike is the king of half-truths, and you're going to see that more and more as I go on. And that's important. That's important for you to know that he likes to tell half-truths. And that's how we were able to unravel his story. So, he said that his mom is Canadian, his dad is American, and, he was born in the U.S. That he was not born in the U.S. He was born in Gander in Newfoundland. And I know that because I've seen his birth certificate. His dad, however, was born in the U.S. So yes, his dad is an American citizen. So, the land, I don't know. But anyways, another thing I asked Michael after we met his parents was, why is it that there are only photos of you and your one brother out at your parents' place? Why? What about the one that died in action? And he said, oh, don't even talk to my mom about that. Like that, she's very sensitive still. She doesn't like to talk about him. She won't even have pictures out of him. Like it was just a very traumatic time. He was killed in action. My helicopter was shot down. I mean, the stuff that my mother's been through, it's crazy. And I'd have to say, the whole time we traveled, it was a month before I ended up back in Saskatchewan, Mike's drinking was not excessive. He didn't drink to excess. So I guess maybe that one night was a bit of a mistake, It seemed like that was quite plausible. He was controlling himself. So as we made our way back from the East Coast back to Saskatchewan, we got back to Ontario and we picked up Karen, his business partner and driving buddy. I don't know. Anyways, drove back to Saskatchewan, dropped me off at home. Met my parents, met my friends. The two of them continued on to BC. I don't really know why, because they like to drive. They like to travel, I guess. I had to get back to work. I couldn't let my work slide any longer. So I went back to work. They did eventually stop by here again on the way through. Now, Mike, and again, something else I want to say on this trip was that Mike was so attentive to me. There was no texting, there was no phone calls, it was about me this trip. I mean, there were no other people, there was no phones interfering. So, anyways, he spoke to me numerous times a day. He on the phone, texted. He maintained very much a couple atmosphere. He very much used the words we and us, and he talks about the future a lot. And while that scared me, he kept saying like, we're not getting any younger, and he'd say things like, don't you want to be in a relationship? Like I thought, us, we're going to do this, blah, 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 blah. I guess he was moving very quickly and I didn't like it very much and he could sense it. However, I went with it. So as we're traveling back, we're almost to Ontario, and one day Mike goes to pay for something and he says to me, oh my God, my bank card won't work. And I thought, what? And he said, I don't know what's going on. He was very embarrassed. He was very humble. He was, he seemed very agitated about the whole thing. So he said to me, well, I don't know, maybe it was gas or some groceries or something that we were picking up. He said, would you pay for this? And he said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to find out what's going on with my bank. Okay, so that's fine. I said, well, not a problem. I mean, I had offered to pay for things on this trip and he certainly would not let me. So I felt like it was my turn to pay. I was good with that. It was my trip too. So I started paying for the different things. And the next day or the day after, he said to me, I found out what's going on. And great, what is it? And he said, well, I got a hold of my accountant and I'm being audited. The CRA has frozen all my accounts, everything. And, the accountant had prepared me that this could very well happen. And it's still from the sale of my business. He said, I sold my business for $40 million and it's a lot of money. And because of my fraud charge, my accountant told me that I should be prepared for this. And so unfortunately, it's happening. But the good news is it should only be a few weeks. Okay. All right. Well, he knows. Oh, that's good. Okay. Not a problem. So he said, like, you don't mind. I'll pay you back totally with interest, everything. I will pay you back as soon as my bank accounts are unlocked. Sure. Absolutely. That's not a problem. I mean, I never carried a balance on my credit cards. So that was fine with me. And off to Saskatchewan we went, where we, again, like I said, backed up a little bit, met my parents, my friends, that type of thing. So I got a little sidetracked there. You have to kind of jump back and forth with me a little bit there. So I guess the gist of it was we had a wonderful trip. We really bonded. Mike was talking about the future. It was quite wonderful. I was meeting friends in his life, and he was being audited on our way back to Ontario. We were almost to Ontario, audited, blah, blah, blah. It's okay. I started paying for things, got back to Saskatchewan. Let's not forget they continued on in the Jeep that I'm renting on my credit card. Let's not forget they've continued on to BC. So anyways, that's the gist of part 4. Stay tuned for part 5. It won't be tonight. And I'll tell you some more.